Hello, welcome to the D365 Shot First podcast. I'm Ben, and this is Charlie.
It's nice to be back.
It's lovely to be back on the sofa.
It is not quite nice weather anymore. Summer's, come to an end.
It's a bit chilly out there.
It is interesting. We're both in shirts, actually, considering.
It's warm in this building, isn't it?
Have we got aircon? No.
We don't have aircon. We do have radiators, Charlie. So
True. That's
an old-fashioned technology, which is funny because we're going to be talking about the future today.
Yeah, going back to the past. No.
Back to the future and potentially.
I was trying to link to the film, but I think I've done that wrong.
It's called Back to the Future. Is that the one you're on about?
Yeah. So we're going.
But it was
to
made
the
in the
future.
past. But we could be talking about how in the future we'll be going back anyway.
Yeah, we've really got lost in translation.
Yeah. It's old versus young.
It's the topic that goes on.
It is.
So I wanted to talk today about how. Well, I want to talk about a few things. How consulting was 10 years ago, because I wasn't around.
Okay.
Obviously, I was alive, but not in consulting. And how we think it's going to be in 10 years, whether Ben will be with us.
It's a bit morbid, but okay.
In consulting, because he's going to have retired, potentially.
Okay.
And what I'll be doing in 10 years, potentially.
Yeah.
And where the tech will be, and how we're going to resource around that.
And anyone who is still a consultant, what they're going to be doing.
Yes, that's the main.
Oh, you'll still be a consultant, you reckon?
Who knows?
And that's the first question.
10 years is a long way away.
Yeah.
I could win the lottery between now and then.
I mean, you could do, but it would be a very short podcast if you just said, oh, in 10 years' time, we will run the lottery. One of us will be retired, one of us will run the lottery. I think what we should talk about is
It's a
what
good duo.
consultants could look like in 5 or 10 years' time.
What will
Or
consultancy
be
in 10 years?
What will it be?
Exactly. So, do you reckon it'll be similar?
Yes and no. So the main crux is going to be the same. You go to someone and you try and understand what their requirements are and what you can deliver to them in the most efficient, maintainable way. But we'll be able to do it faster.
How so?
Well, we'll be able, instead of going in and writing a load of C#, you can just going to be able to tell a bot to do it for you, or AI to do it for you.
You sound like you're in marketing.
Do I? Okay.
AI can't do everything.
No, okay.
But maybe it can in 10 years.
So I think you've kind of hit on what I was talking about there. What can't it do?
So it can't understand the problem. So again, AI is basically just it just searches knowledge bases, right? It just searches thousands and millions of them very quickly, using a lot of power, a lot of environmental issues. We'll touch on that later. Uses a lot of power, a lot of energy. So essentially what I'm saying is, although you'll be able to, code-wise it'll be fine, it can write code, that's not an issue, but you're still going to need someone to define the problem and therefore basically design a solution before you can ever go to an agent or an AI to give you the code for it. So you're still going to need a BA, still going to need someone to define that solution or what they want with acceptance criteria. And even then, how often have we used AI? Right, I mean we use it probably every day.
Yeah.
For different bits. How often does it still not fulfill the exact thing you're asking for?
No, sometimes it completely misses the point, or it'll produce something you know is wrong.
Yeah, and then you'll tell it's wrong, and it'll go, "You're absolutely right," and then come out with another solution. So
yeah. Sometimes I tell it when I've worked out the answer, but I've actually stopped doing that because I just think the world has become so meta that all of a sudden AI will be telling me what I'm thinking. So I've stopped doing that.
So I think I can agree. It will be quicker. Mainly because I think we'll know how to use AI better. Because I think that's a big part of the issue now when people say, "Oh, AI doesn't help." Is it's like, no, you just haven't learned yet how to use AI. So like at the moment, I've learned a new strategy for me when I'm using it is always put as a D365 BC consultant.
Okay.
So say I'm just checking something, like knowledge check myself. I'll just be like, as a D365 consultant, can you spot any errors in this chart of accounts, for example, or can you spot anything I could improve in this chart of accounts? And then just get it to give me some ideas, spitball some ideas to me, as if I'm just like feeding back with myself. There used to be a saying for it. You used to when you relay a problem to someone else just to say it out loud.
Talking to the duck.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called. Rubber ducky theory.
Get talking to the duck. That's what it's called.
It. Yeah, okay. You're right.
So there's a programmer who went home one day and started talking to a rubber duck, I believe, in the bath. And then by the time he'd finished talking to the rubber duck, he'd worked out what the answer to his problem was. This is a bit of a high-powered rubber duck, though, isn't it?
Yeah, this rubber duck is very smart.
Yeah, have you ever had a rubber duck that talks?
No, I don't think I've ever had a duck. I should get a duck and go in the bath.
Yeah, well, there we are.
I actually don't remember the last time I had a bath.
That, maybe a bit too much information. But, so anyway, moving on. I mean, so there's a couple of things there that you hit on. Is that we're talking about how you use AI, which is interesting. But at the beginning, we talked about what does consultancy look like 10 years ago. And in 10 years' time, we're going to say it's going to be the same and faster. And I would say 10 years ago, you'd have people going into offices every day, taking ages to get to work. You'd have people coming from London to all parts of the country. And I say London because that was my experience living in Birmingham. There's a lot of people came up from there, stayed all week. They spent ages going through workshops. We'd do everything in waterfall. Things would take a long, long time. Now we're doing things online in agile. Everything's much faster. You can get out of bed and 5 minutes later, you'll be on the phone designing something, you know?
And telling us his
well, you know, obviously I wouldn't do anything like that, but, but you can. Everything's much faster now. But it's still the same thing. It's still understanding someone's problem and then coming up with a solution that's available with the technology. And the technology is getting better and faster. But I think consultancy will always be the same in that respect when you're designing computer solutions, and it will just be faster. And and what you said about AI, sometimes there's been times I've been writing code and I've been really stuck. And 10 years ago, I would have rung someone and said, can you help me? I'm looking at this. I've been looking at this code for hours and it all looks the same to me and I can't work out what the answer is. Now you can copy that into ChatGPT and say, what am I doing wrong? And it might give you the wrong answer. But what it will do is give you an idea about what you might actually be doing. So it's interesting because I use it in a similar kind of way to you, as in when I'm really stuck and I need a little bit of inspiration that normally would have got some interaction with another human being. And these days you're quite often sat in your spare room at home,
it's an interesting
tapping
topic.
away.
I mean, this is unrelated to how it'll be, or maybe it won't be. This might be it.
You're going to talk about your bathing again?
No, well, similar, essentially.
Okay.
You know, I do bathing alone, and I just... I was just going to say, I think consultants become more and more lonely. I think even though the world's more of a connected place, I think everyone's going to become more disconnected. It's like even now we talk about it, you know, in the office and here at Formless Pro, we like to come to the office and everyone likes to socialise and we have like events and things that we all do as a company to make sure we get that social interaction as humans and we have that like friendship. Whereas I think in 10 years, you know, that's going to be something again that's as property becomes more expensive and rent becomes more expensive for offices, it's less likely companies are going to want to front that bill. So having an office, as you say, when we can all work from home and there's no necessity for us to be together is less likely.
Well,
from a business point of view.
That's interesting because it's very important for me to do that. But I've seen, I was a teenager in the 90s. So I remember what it was like before. You could go online and get in touch with someone instantly. And when someone got in touch with you, I was going to say you dealt with that, but you responded to them. They rang you, you picked up the phone, you responded. Or if they wrote you a letter, maybe you didn't respond, but you didn't expect an instant response then. Whereas now, I've got people who are close to me who, you know, they won't always respond to you straight away because they've got so much information going on and so many different things, but you've got all this interaction all the time. But actually, none of it is actually what I would call real interaction. There's a lot of non-human interaction. So maybe in 10 years' time, consultants will become almost like therapists to each other. You know, I hadn't thought of it like this before. Is that it would be really important to bring on your skills as actually like your soft skills to make sure that other people aren't going through those kind of experiences where they're feeling isolated all the time.
And from my generation, I think that's again something that again is going to be a lack of soft skills probably that's going to be brought through because you know even in my generation, right, like even at school, like I had. I mean, maybe I shouldn't admit this again, but a lot of my coursework was AI driven or online driven.
Well, fair enough. You used the tools available to you.
Yeah, that's it. Whereas in the 90s, you would have just gone and asked teachers or students, or
written on your arm.
Yeah, you would have had actual students. Whereas we just Google it. Everything. If you don't know something, you just Google it, right? Whereas you guys used to ask. So again, the generation behind me, whatever that is, I don't know what you call them.
The generation AA.
Alpha.
Oh, Alpha is it?
I think it's Alpha.
Okay, Generation Alpha.
Yeah, so they're even in my
it's
mind.
all Greek to me.
In my mind, they're even going to be even less able to communicate with each other because they're so used to like not having to go and ask. They just, if you don't know, so you just Google it.
I was going to ask for a joke if you ever made a phone call, right? But do you think the next generation will never actually make a Google search because they're going to get the information before they even know they want it?
So the kids in primary school now, like you said, they're going to just. Why would they go on Google? They're just going to ChatGPT something. because it's going to be quicker, easier, and more often right, and you're able to put scenarios in it and that kind of thing. So it's like you say, the soft skills are going to be what makes a consultant, because the tech, again, you can almost just Google the tech.
Well, so with the example, this dystopian theory we've come up with, where children won't even use Google anymore, that all information and all conversations will become homogenized, because that everything will be the same, because the computer will assume you're the same as the next person. So the consultant, you're quite right, is going to go in and say, well, actually, this problem isn't the same as that problem. And the computer doesn't understand what that is. And we need to be really careful about, and I keep calling it a computer, the tech, the AI doesn't understand. We need to be really careful about how we actually present this to Copilot or whatever we're using, so it can give us the right answer, because it will just assume we're the same as the next person otherwise.
And like you say, I think it is going to be like, as you say, maybe not therapist, but like I say, when you're communicating with your clients and that side of things, having an actual meaningful conversation as well as getting the requirements is going to be important to be a successful project.
Yeah.
Because you know, getting people on board with new tech, it's going to be impossible, because you're going to lack the people skills.
And this goes back to what I said at the beginning, though, because I think it's the same. Because I think that's really important. If you go on an odd call with a client, you can just keep it formal and professional. But if you work all the time with the same person, you don't want to always be at a professional level. You have to crack some jokes. You have to have a chat about your day, about your weekend, about your interests. Because people want to work with people. Well, they don't want to work with robots.
I think this is an important thing. So if you're not a consultant and you're listening or watching, I think it's really important to understand that our job is tech and it is technology. But I spend more, we literally said this earlier, I spend more of my day chatting about holidays, the house I'm building, what clients are doing, what they want to do, their kids, what's going on, than I do what requirements they want.
Yeah, we can tell, Charlie.
Yeah, well, maybe I'm just a poor consultant, but because it's more important, like you say, because people is the job. The job is all about people.
Yeah, absolutely.
As much as it is the tech, you can ask someone about tech, or you can learn the tech yourself, or you can Google it. It's more about, can you get on with other people, and can you understand what they're trying to relay to you? I think it's a really important part. To go back and take away from me being a poor consultant. I wanted to go on vibe coding. You mentioned code, and you are previously a dev. Yeah. Now a consultant. How do you think that's going to develop? And what's your thoughts on it? And
so I think vibe coding is, and some people may disagree with me, I think vibe coding is good for demos and prototypes, although I have actually tried using it for a demo. And it didn't go well, and I actually wasted a load of time, and then was there frantically trying to get something together to make it work at the end of the day. The problem is, and again, some people might disagree with me, is I think we're going to have it might be a problem for us, we're going to have a lot of unpicking to do of vibe coding that's been done that is going to be spaghetti code, essentially. It's going to be all over the place. It'll be really hard to understand. I've mentioned this to some people before, and I've heard them say, well, we'll just write more vibe coding, and maybe that will work, and the AI is going to get better at fixing that vibe coding for you. But then what happens when the AI doesn't do what you want it to do, and then it keeps going on in a big loop? And I think it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But I can see a lot of rescuing where people who have done more than maybe they should have done without any kind of guidance whatsoever. Because maybe vibe coding is the way to go, but I think you always want someone there to hold your hand a little bit and say, yes, that is what you want to do. And you want to make sure you don't produce something, you don't want something that does absolutely everything for the sake of it. You produce something that does something for 1% of scenarios. And when that scenario comes up, no one's really sure what's happened, because it's so rare that you've done that you may as well have made it a manual process just to make sure there's still some element of a human understanding what's going on, I think.
I think it's one of those where, again, it depends how thorough you are when you vibe code. So, for example, I don't know AL, which is what BC's written in. I can read AL, but I'm not going to...
AL?
Yeah.
Okay.
So weird, only for BC. So it's a bit of a niche code. There's no point in me learning it, because I'm not a dev.
Okay.
I can read it and understand what it's doing, but I'm not going to attempt to write it. Could I vibe code and maybe add a field, which is really simple, or do a table extension or something like that? I could. Not going to take long. It's quite simple. I can read it. But like you say, if that then has an issue, later on because I've not deployed it correctly. Because this is the other thing. Like, you might be able to vibe code, but if you don't follow a deployment process right, or you don't add it to source control, or something like that, or link it to a DevOps ticket, and it's there, then it's like it has no meaning to the system at all. And on the next deployment, you might just overwrite it, and it might be gone. So it's like, it's not just about the value of the code. It's also, do you understand the process in which it should be deployed? Again, is there comments in it? So when a developer goes in and goes, oh, I've been asked for this requirement, can we do this? And they're looking through it, and if there's no code, no comments or anything in it to explain what's going on, or if it's not in a traditional layout for a developer, or it doesn't follow on BC, I don't know how it is on C, on BC, the team have got like an agreement on how they label things and how they...
Coding standards.
Yeah, exactly. They've got their standards and how they want it done. Vibe coding's not going to follow that.
Well,
again, you could input that as a parameter.
Yeah,
but it comes down to who's doing it.
Well, again, this goes back to it being the consultant needs to know what they're doing to make it work correctly.
So you could put all these parameters in. So recently, I saw Andrew Wingate, who's a BC practice lead, do a thing on page scripting, and he shows how he uses AI to basically write him scripts for testing. Use like PowerShell scripts and things like that for page scripting testing and things like that. Essentially, he doesn't know how to write those scripts. So he just gives it, he writes like a big, massive string of parameters and what he wants it to test, and is very thorough on his prompt into AI. And that gives him a PowerShell script that 90% of the time will write and test exactly as he's asked. But again, it's about having the understanding of what to prompt the AI and have an understanding of how the system works to prompt the AI. And then if it doesn't do it, he needs to understand why it hasn't done it or why it hasn't followed what he's asked. And those are all things that it's easy to say as a consultant or as a practice lead, who's someone who's obviously very intelligent and understands the whole system. But like you say, vibe coding's traditionally for someone who doesn't, right? It's normally for a sit dev or, just an employee who's just trying to develop something to help their day to day. So it's, although vibe coding might be good, as you say, because it's often going to be done by people who don't understand how to do deployments or how to follow the structure or prompt it correctly. As you said before, that you are just going to be doing a lot of unpicking and a lot of just, when we do an update, because they haven't deployed it, we're actually just going to wipe it. And then they're going to be messaging you, oh, where's my field I added this week? And then they're going to have data in a system, which the field's no longer there for. And it's like, well, what do you do in that scenario? And then you're going to be doing data unpicking and data mitigation, and it's just...
So I think you're talking about, this is a topic we've covered before, the groundwork you need for development as well there. So the requirements and the data mapping and all that kind of stuff. So maybe with vibe coding you wouldn't get that. And then when you if you vibe code a fix with vibe code, then you lose sight of what's been changed because you haven't gone in and physically done it and said, oh, I'm removing this attribute here. What does that actually do? And that might disappear, and then we might have an integration that may or may not have been vibe coded to something else that's been vibe coded. And then what happens there? Where do the dependencies come in? But presumably in 10 years time, AI will understand dependencies on other systems. And then we'll be getting into Skynet territories, but maybe we'll cover that in a bit. But my point being is what you've hit on is that there won't be the groundwork that humans have done to understand what the issue is and therefore understand what they're actually changing.
Well, this is it, like you say. So it's, although vibe coding might be plausible and consultants might be able to do it to be, as you said before, quicker.
Yeah.
Like as a dev, you might just be able to go, can you spin me this up, and you can just read through it and just change the bits you don't like, and it will make your job quicker, much quicker than sitting there typing it. However, you're still going to need that resource with a base understanding of what's going on around it and the solution architecture surrounding what you're vibe coding. For it to be of any value.
So we've actually introduced something internally, which I'm not sure how many people have used, but it's for writing Dataverse plugins. So I used it and it worked, but it was for one specific bit of a system that I told it I wanted it to do, and I did change it as well loads because I didn't like the way it was laid out. But maybe that's something you could tell it in the instructions. I want it laid out like this. But that was the one thing that went in and checked someone's address or something like that I told it specifically what to do. Would it have understood to structure it like that? I guess if I'd written requirements at a high enough level to say, I want this component that does this, or high enough here and low enough down here, but it becomes, your design becomes so intricate then that it almost feels like, because what we're trying to get away from currently is all waterfall. So you'll have a general overview and then things will be done in an agile way. I think if you start doing this, you're going to have to be really careful about making it too agile, for want of a better word, because if people end up going off on silos and making stuff in AI really fast, working at different rates, and they'll probably start splitting out a little bit. People might completely disagree with me, but I can see lots of stuff being made that doesn't link together.
Yeah, there's not going to be much joinery.
Yeah, potentially.
Like you say, there's going to be a lot of people that just go,
before.
oh, we can just do this, it'll only take 5 minutes. Let me just type in, I want this field added to this table.
And again, goes back to a similar thing from earlier. So you've still got that thing that you need someone to be there to actually think about what everything is doing.
That's it. So before we
it.
did this podcast, we were all having a chat about what we think AI is going to do, whether it's going to make people, jobless, and how society is going to be in maybe 10 years, and the effects that has on the welfare of people. And like we say, for us as consultants, I can't see there being much of a concern, because
I hope not anyway.
Yeah, I'm going to say that now to try and safeguard my job.
Yeah, save consultancy.
Yeah. Like I say, I can't see there being much of a change, because you're still going to need people to understand, as you say, and also keep it structured. You almost might need more of a waterfall approach if vibe coding becomes this be all and end all.
Might just be a smaller waterfall.
Yeah.
Or like one in Wales as opposed to Niagara Falls, that kind of thing. I was going to try and pronounce one, but...
Yeah, good luck. You're going to butcher a good old Welsh town.
Yeah.
No.
So we think we're looking at structure. I've touched on therapy, not necessarily therapy.
In his personal life.
Yeah, but I think I think there will be a big part of it is that it will be about soft skills and about coordinating people more and more and more, because people become happier being on their own and disparate from each other.
Yeah, I'm bad for it.
But
I love being at home.
But so you yeah, okay. Well, thanks for coming in today.
Yeah, I'm not. Other than I don't mind coming to an office, but I just think I think it's just productivity.
Yeah.
I feel like when I come to an office, I just sit and chat, and I'm one of those people that will happily just chat and do no work.
Okay.
And then when I'm at home, it's because I don't have anyone to chat to. I just put music on and do work.
Okay.
So, and then thinking, like you said before, it's just commuting.
Yeah.
I hate commuting. The fact people waste like an hour a day back and forth to achieve nothing. Not a fan of it at all.
So to touch on the other side of it, and this is something else. You mentioned that we were talking about this earlier. We were talking about people becoming unemployed, that kind of thing. And so the ethical side of consultancy. Should we be looking at the environmental impact potentially of AI? Will that become part of consultancy?
Well, this is it. So this is interesting actually you mentioned that. BC's recently, I say recently, it's quite a while ago now, but it's a sustainability page now in BC where you can track your CO2 emissions and other emissions and how sustainable you are as a company.
Really?
Which I think is really important. And currently it's just a static page. It doesn't really do much. You can report against it, etc. But I think going forward and over the next 5-10 years, that's going to become more of a, maybe there's, I don't know, a sustainability page is going to be more important because we don't know it yet, but I can see in the future, there being taxes on how much emissions you emit as a company. And if you emit over a certain amount, you're going to get taxed more, something along those lines.
Yeah, so there was the Clean Air Act, I think it was in the 90s, and that's kind of where carbon trading came from. And they built these, I'm going to call them funnels. You see the big coal factory pipe.
Yeah.
So they made technology that limited the amount of emissions that came out of those. I think it was electromagnetic technology. And the reason was because they started being taxed on carbon, and they had carbon credits. And what happened is the big companies bought all the carbon credits from the smaller companies, and then I can't remember exactly, so I might be teaching some bad historical economics here, but I think that it became a monopoly basically. So in some ways it didn't help because the big companies then have a monopoly on making the carbon. I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's interesting you say that because it's a similar kind of thing I think we'll be looking at is how many kettles are we boiling, every time we turn a computer on just to load it up and all the stuff it's going to do for you that maybe you don't need. Maybe every time you make something, you're going to have to say, well, that's going to drain one of those lakes over there, or that's going to cut down that forest, or that's going to start a fire over there.
Well, this is it. A lot of the resources we use to keep these, processes going, which, a lot of people won't understand, but AI uses a lot of processing power, and, the more AI we input into all these solutions and make it more accessible for the end users and the clients to speed their day-to-day up, it is going to have a massive impact on the amount of calls that it's doing to the processing. And, then again, like you say, environmental-wise, how many trees is that cutting down for you to send an email, that you could have typed out within 2 minutes? It becomes, like you say, an ethical query rather than yes, we're saving money, and the ROI is going to be better because staff are spending less time doing simple tasks. But should we be considering?
So maybe there'll be like jobs of tree planters in the future or something like that.
Yeah, potentially we're creating new careers.
So we'll be part-time consultants because our jobs will be done in 1/10 of the time.
Because it can be so much faster.
It'd be so much faster. We'll be making a living, and then we could be in the rainforest replanting the trees for the future generations.
Because we're working from home.
I'm not sure how much that's going to help. Working from home. You work from home in the Amazon.
Yeah,
that's where Charlie lives now.
That's where
I knew you moved a long way away, but I didn't realise it was Brazil.
I'd love to move abroad.
Yeah.
That's a different.
Well, maybe that we could do that in future. I mean, that's the point as well. I mean, there's digital nomads everywhere. And at the moment, I don't know what our company policy is, but obviously, if you wanted to move somewhere abroad, we'd need to talk about it at least. And I know there are some consultancies where people can work all over the world. I think it depends, it gets tied down to customers and things like that because of data protection, all kinds of laws which are outside my hands. I just know if you wanted to do something like that, you'd obviously have to get it cleared. But maybe in the future, we'll be so connected that it won't matter where you are. Maybe we will have a truly globalist society. It's not looking like it at the moment, but maybe we will in the future, and all these kind of things will be broken down, and we won't need to worry so much about how data's stored that won't we?
It's interesting you say that. It might not matter where you're from to get into this industry, and I think that's important. But the thing I was going to touch on, actually, I think in the next 5 to 10 years, consultants are going to be much harder of a resource to find.
Okay.
Because, I mean, when I go to events, I've recently been to South Coast Summit, and in the past been to like Scottish Summit, been to Dynamic Minds, to name a few. I am by far the youngest person at the event by, maybe other than Lewis. There's not many young people in industry within 5 years of my age.
Why do you think that is?
It's just such a niche. Like, if you've not got someone that works in how did you get into industry, like Dynamics? Because you're an end user.
By accident, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know anyone whose target was to become a Dynamics consultant. I think that's why.
Do you think then that that's because... So I know a lot of people, I think there's a lot more people now in the industry who come from a background similar to mine, where they've got into it because they were a business user and they understand business processes. When I started, there were a lot of people that come out of university doing computer science. And I suppose now, if people come out of university in computer science, maybe they don't look at this as the kind of industry they want to go into anymore. Do you think that's more... Do you know anyone... So everyone at your age probably at school did IT, maybe? I didn't really. We did a bit. We built something in BASIC.
Not even. I think because everyone my age uses IT.
Yeah.
Just because they're more capable on laptops and computers, it doesn't mean they want to go and. I think it probably means they're less likely to go and study IT and business.
Okay.
Because I did a sixth form. Christ, here we go. Let's jog the memory. I did like IT, business, and psychology.
Well done. Was it 3 years ago?
Yep, 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. But I think my class had 6 people in for IT.
Really?
For sixth form.
Yeah.
So it's I don't think just because my generation are more probably technologically advanced and better at using it at a younger age, I don't think it means they're going to study it at all.
Do you think now there've been more, for want of a better phrase, tech bros? I think people have always been obsessed with becoming millionaires and billionaires. But I think now you see it plastered all over the internet. Oh, I bought some Bitcoin once, and now I'm a billionaire. And oh, I invented something with AI, and now I'm a billionaire, that kind of thing. Do you think actually more traditionally people into computer science would have been happy to go to a company, maybe make some language up, but quite often just have a really solid job coding stuff? Whereas now people maybe don't see that as such a solid option anymore.
I think it's
So they're
laziness.
moving away
to
from it.
be blunt, I think my generation is much more lazy because it's so much easier to find knowledge out. Like
Okay.
a lot of people won't look at, or they won't look at. I don't know how to make this sound good. I'm just going to sound poor. Excuse whatever I'm about to say. But essentially, when you were growing up, the idea of being like an IT guy or a finance guy, or that isn't like an admirable job, and that is like you're doing really well in life if you're on X amount of money and you're, I don't know, a senior developer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people are going to look in my generation as that being successful, because there's hundreds of thousands of people, which is all they're going to see on their For You pages and their Instagram pages and Facebook, whatever it is. All they're going to see is the tech and finance people that have made billions, not the people that are on 60 to 100 grand a year, which in realistic life is a lot of money and a great salary, but it's going to be so poor compared to the people that they're
aspiring to.
Admiring, and what the people they're looking at have achieved. So like back in the day, I was always brought up like so I'm a STEM ambassador, and we do it because I want to get younger people into tech, and I want to show them how good the lifestyle is. Get opportunities like this. We get, like I said, I've been to Slovenia. We've got clients in Paris, Edinburgh. Like we get to travel with work. We work from home. It's not a taxing day, although mentally you've worked a lot. I sit and type. So it's not like I work.
You're not going down a pit.
I used to be a roofer, so I look at this job like it's not. It's a hard job, like knowledge-wise, but it's not a. I don't feel like I'm dying at the end of each day.
Mm-hmm.
It's a brilliant job. Do people my age or younger than me, like you say, the alpha generation, who's only ever seen, the likes of, I don't know, Bill Gates, and Bill Gates is not a good example because he's older, but like you say, these, millionaires and billionaires that are getting out of their Lamborghinis and, getting out of jets and things like that, who have made an AI company or something, they're not going to look at a salary like that and be like, oh, I want to, clock into my 9 to 5 every day, if that makes sense, because it's just not as...
Yeah, sorry, it's just got me thinking about what we do about that kind of thing, though, because will we become consultants possibly? So obviously at the moment, a lot of consultants do work for the government, but will we have more government agencies looking at consultants who are trying to make things to encourage people to go into tech, or to look at how we can actually improve people's lives?
Yeah, I think
spent their whole time aspiring to be a billionaire, and actually, when the reality is that they need to get into a decent career and move from there.
I hate telling people to be realistic.
Yeah.
Because I've always said, telling someone to be realistic is just confining them to the bubble that you've put yourself in, which I think, sorry, language, but just because someone else might not think they can achieve it, it doesn't mean you should limit someone else's thoughts on what they can achieve. Someone like Glenn, for example, our CEO, Glenn was Glenn's very smart, but he was, at the end of the day, he was just a contractor.
Yeah.
And now he's got this massive dynamics firm.
That's true, but
on where he might go.
But then I would say that Glenn has got there by
hard work. Very hard work.
As opposed to trying to buy some Bitcoin.
But this is my point.
And hoping that turns out
you've got to get
best.
yourself in the good career and in a good
absolutely.
path. And they're going to have to create schemes and methods to do that, and to get people understanding that, it's not what you see online. That the people you see online are less than 1% of the actual realistic. And also the people online aren't going to show you the work they put in.
The work they've put in, or actually the reality of the outcome.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Like they put in thousands and tens of thousands of hours. You're not going to see tens of thousands of hours. You're going to just see the glamorous lifestyle that is occurring in front of you. So I think, to take it back to where we started this on, I do think resource is going to be harder to come by. Although, you might have changed my mind.
Yeah.
Because the more companies we deploy Dynamics to, the more people that are going to be aware of it, because they're end users. Which means you might get more, of an inflow of staff looking to change from end users and understanding business requirements into a consultancy role.
So maybe you're saying that we're going to single-handedly save the world, by rolling out Dynamics to everybody. I might be being slightly facetious.
Yeah, what can I say? Save the world. Dynamics consultant.
So you think it's going to be hard to get resource. I think that it could cause some environmental issues.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Maybe there'll be some kind of great reset though, almost like we'll go back to ground zero, and no, I can't see that happening really.
I mean, technology advanced, right? We might just have more hydro dams, and we might just use nature to produce electronic or
Produce
electricity.
to start
and power.
printing nature, maybe.
That's
You
it.
can print a rainforest.
Who
You can
knows?
print a state. Why can't you print a tree?
This is it.
Although, what kind of resources? I don't know how resources printing a state uses. To be honest,
Probably more
that's
than.
probably a whole different ethical concern we need to get onto.
No, but I think environmental issues. I think is a big branch to tackle.
Mm.
I think resource is a 50-50.
Yeah.
Might be really hard to find, but potentially, as you said, you came from an end user background, so who's to say that you're not going to get, with the bigger dynamics you're not going to get way more people turning their career from end user to consultant.
Potentially, but maybe then you'll get people who don't use consultancies and become. Going back to what I said about vibe coding, maybe people will get really good at it, AI will get really good at it, and maybe companies will start their own self-consulting, and then we could actually expand into using the technology we use to doing more and more things.
So vibe coding, we're definitely not sure on.
I don't know. I can't
It's an
predict the
unknown.
future. But if anyone is watching this in the future, I did invent printing rainforests. So,
Artificial trees already exist, sorry.
It's ruined your day.
okay.
And I just don't want to put you out, but everyone will be watching this in the future
Okay.
because it's recorded.
All right.
Yes, it's impossible for it not to be the future.
So should we wrap up then? I think a summary really is that we see the consultant role to be very similar than it is to how it is now, in that we're still going to have to understand business problems and come up with a suitable and maintainable solution for them.
And that people are the solution, essentially.
People will
not
always
the
be
tech.
at the centre of
Yeah,
it.
the tech will always change, and as you said previously today, the only constant is change.
Yeah, I did, didn't I?
You see, I'm listening.
I did.
A big part of being a consultant is listening. But so the only constant is change. Tech will always change,
Yeah.
and it's just the people. So if you're looking to get into tech, just focus on your people skills. Maybe go to a couple of user groups. Me and Ben, we first met actually before I started here.
Yeah. Birmingham User Group.
Birmingham User Group, I've been to Bristol User Group. Again, all the events like South Coast Summit, Scottish Summit, Dynamic Minds, are great places to meet people, meet other consultants.
They'll still be going in the future, I'm sure.
We can hope so. I'm hoping there's more events. And there's always more user groups popping up, all over the UK especially. I'm assuming there's user groups outside of the UK. I can't promise if there is. Not been to one.
No, neither have I.
I was hoping you were going to say you had been to one. Then.
No. It's
But-
a bit of a commute.
Yeah, true. It's quite a long way.
Yeah.
Bad for the environment.
Again, more
Yeah.
environmental issues if we're travelling.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you very much for listening.
Yeah.
I've been Charlie.
I've been Ben.